The world just entered the latter age of the Dharma, and shitboss in chaos. Society is crumbling, and war is spreading throughout the country. Disease and famine have killed thousands, and demons smoke the very earth itself. You are Nashigami, a foot soldier in the service of Lord Takeda Nobumitsu. Deceived by a powerful demon king, your lord led his army into an ambush. All perished, except for you. Against your wishes, your lord sacrifices his life to aid your escape from the battle. You have made a vow to track down the demon and end its life. You take what could possibly be your final breaths on this mortal plane, and prepare yourself to enter.
You probably know how easy it is to go from 100 to 0 in horrors. Pretty much every piece of audiovisual content with the slightest tweak can go from unsettling and horrifying into a goofy shitpost pretty much. Atmosphere is extremely fragile entity, which is extremely hard to maintain. And more than that, once shattered, it's almost irrevocable. Because of that, I myself consider horror essentially as one of the most difficult genres to make right and enjoyable. Today's topic is Immersion Breaking, and for the game we're talking about today, it's relevant for an interesting and actually very rare reason. You see, overall atmosphere instruments here work extremely well. Locations of the game are hollow, dirty, rusty. Every structure feels long abandoned, sometimes horribly destroyed, and that works. Rusty visuals and horrid ambient help to keep the constant pressure going. Monster designs are fucked. Cutscenes. Stellar. There are a bunch of mini stories of people who lived here before the demon invasion and horrors that happened afterwards. I rarely read any notes myself in the games, but here I did, and they actually were pretty fun. Everything seems to be great, but with all that I still just found myself periodically being put out of the atmosphere extremely hard. Some particular elements just push me to the thought process I guess I shouldn't be having while playing a game like that. For start, let me just bring some more context into it. Game we have here is a dungeon crawler, and gameplay with combat is a very significant part of the experience. One of the most important and personally impressive for me things this game tries to implement is its tricky enemy AI. Combat events majorly are not scripted, and the monsters here are interesting. They have all basic tools player has at its disposal. They can use environment for their advantage, they can find weapons and use them, and most importantly, they can fight each other. So yeah, it's almost basically like Condemned. All those behaviors and abilities in tandem really open a lot of gates for peculiar scenarios. So just leave it through.
Where are you going? What? What? Why?
Okay, so that's basically not the only thing that I went on thought spiral because of, but that's one is a very apparent one. And I just want to make a statement now that would be basing mostly on this thing. And yeah, further into the video we'll have more examples of how atmosphere can be engulfed or dumped down pretty much, but now please hear my thoughts, please. Yes. So the next speech is not addressed towards any game specifically, and not towards any developer, but more so towards the whole state of the genre. So after processing stuff, I guess I think that many developers condition themselves to quote-unquote do less to not ruin the experience of a horror game altogether. I really don't believe that's the true for 100% of the times, and that's probably not in the 50s really, but that's just the thought I cannot not entertain now. Realistically, when did we actually saw a horror game which tried to do anything unique or interesting with its gameplay mechanics? I guess End the Parasitic in a way, that was actually pretty fun, but most of the times when we think about a spooky horror game, we just think about nothing that will have more interactions than, let's say, having few endings or few story-defining choices. In terms of gameplay, everything is almost linear and calculated all the time. For me, it's just a little bit weird how genre pretty much peaked on its earlier stages and never really moved past it in any significant way. Peak was the weird inventory management system, by the way. We live in the age where every genre is trying to mesh with any other, but it feels like horror just stands a little bit apart of anything. Almost every time, it's just a walking simulator if it is a simple horror, and it is a Resident Evil / Silent Hill style game if you're talking about a survival horror. Though, as we see here, genre can totally work as something like dungeon crawler, let's say. In a very obscure way, by making less, you basically have much fewer chances to encounter such. And again, please don't get me wrong. I cannot put into the words how actually happy I am that I encountered a game that actually tries to do something like this, period. Since Condemned, I cannot remember a single game that tried to make interactive enemy AI in such way. It's just a line of thinking that I guess makes me appreciate people's work more. Exploring the thought, it is much more manageable to just make scripted scenes and events. But thing is, everybody leans toward it not because it's easy to implement, but I think more so because it's important to keep the row going. Out of any genre's, horror, I guess, is one of the most reliant on systematic linearity and polish, some would say. Bugs are goofy, often funny, ragdoll is funny, looks weird. But in the end of the day, if you encounter a funny bug in Dishonored or Dark Souls, that's not really a big deal. Experience is not reliant on it. It's not about to vibe that much, let's say. It's just, you want to say the story, perhaps dark and serious, that requires a sizable chunk of attention from consumer. And when consumer tries to pay his attention towards it, if he encounters such a thing, he just starts taking everything much less seriously. By design, you just need to cut all distractions from it. For the game to keep making sense. That sounds like a logically right thing to do, but that just makes the game boring at some point. In return, such restrictions keep many games in genre from being fun overall, just by straight up making them, let's say, closer to walking simulators than formerly mentioned Condemned. And yes, obviously an example I did showed here is not enough to make player quit the game immediately, but that's just a pretty weird gut punch that makes horror part of the game less effective overall. Game we have here is obviously not a walking simulator, so it has much more abilities to randomly, unpredictably fuck up its pacing in some unrecorded areas. And please don't take me wrong here, I don't have any issues with purely narratively driven story-focused projects, but sometimes it just feels like there is only them on the market. Like, okay, rightfully so would be to say just them, Resident Evil style survival horrors, and yeah, that's it. Nothing more. Coming back to other examples. Overall, there is a lot of ways to bring in and take out player out of the atmosphere. To state some positive examples, cutscenes are instantly able to grab my attention. They just godly made, so chilling and grotesque. Also... Whoa! Yeah, the thing with the AI can totally work positively too. I like a lot how elements and bits of storytelling are handled here. Like, for example, in a room with knocked out doors, there's a note that tells a pretty alarming story about how important it is to keep the Batsudan safe, and how pitiful and horrific the fate of any person who is dumb enough to desecrate the shrine. Pretty soon, during a questline, Merchant Kappa asks you to steal Buddha right from the altar, and afterwards, nothing really happens. I love it. For a bit of time, you'll walk in this horror of anticipation. That's very fun, because yeah, it is a bit obvious that harming gods out there in the game where demons took over everything is a bad thing, but For me, it just feels like a sort of in-game reward for caring about written text. Because, you know, the whole anticipation thing was there for me only just because I did wrote out this note. This is a personal little dumb thing, but it's fun and it's making sense. Writing decisions can be extremely important too. And alright, originally there was a pretty fat segment which I had to rethink a bunch of times just because of how little and unreasonable those things sounded. Still though, I just cannot not mention them just because of how genuinely I got caught out of guard by them. You're completely free to drop the next points as a schizo episode or something, but I just really need to know how people are feeling about this besides myself. I'll try to give necessary context to not leave you blind, so please hear it out. Pretty soon after the start of the game, you encounter a ritualic place beneath a tall tree. There, spirit of a shrine maiden tries to pray. Maiden willingly talks with you, and honestly tries to offer her help, stating all information about the Demon King she has and she can tell. She is genuinely tries to... Yeah, just like that. I'm sorry. Like, even if we drop the thing about Ghost getting cold, even if we pass that demon from a legion without any mischief, seemingly really tries to help protagonist. Why she has to cutely sneeze like an anime girl? That just shifts the tone in such a weird way. Now that's not a dead shrine maiden, that's a cute uwu kawaii waifu senpai. I do overbloat this, but still. Developers probably wanted to make her appear more innocent and pure with this detail, but for me that just does it to the point of feeling weird. I don't know, that's just weird, that's it, like... Okay, this is going to be tough. You enter abandoned kitchen, in the end of which you see the door being barraged by a monster. Door is locked and someone behind it is screaming for your help. After a short quest, you acquire the key and...
Thanks for the help, buddy. If any of your weapons of armor are feeling a little weak, just bring them to me and I'll fix them right up. For now, I'll head downstairs. There's a small forge down there. Once that goofy door is unlocked, I'll be at my wife's tea house. I'm just a simple kappa. All I need is my hammer and my forge, and I'm happy. Ah, my wife too, I guess, when she's not trying to turn me into food. Just don't believe her if she wants ya to come wrestle in the pantry. Now, I'm going to keep going this way. Good luck in here, buddy. Maybe I'll see ya again.
Bro hit me with the goofy. Why exactly is he written like a Family Guy character? Just in general, why is he like that? I did try to catch with the montage how I exactly felt during this whole event happening, but I really don't know if I have to say more, actually. Okay, no, you know, I have a funny story actually about this. Just after this was happening, I was so fucking flabbergasted that I actually went into the thematic wiki to actually search for a demon blacksmith. Just to make sure if he is not like that in the mythology or something, like, or just found any information about the guy, okay? Like, I didn't found anything if that matters. But I probably did found out that Japanese mythology is not as serious as I expected. Anyway, just such a weird thing for this game to do, like, up to this point, it was not like that at all. It was serious. It probably did had some snarky commentaries or something like that, but not to this volume, okay? Honestly, right now I'm just genuinely not as infuriated as I was while I originally did completed the demo. But back then, dude, oh my god, like, now I just look at the entirety of the thing that happened and I'm like, okay, that's just a little bit out of the place. But back then, when I actually was met with the thing, I don't know, man, I wrote the whole, like, 2 pages of me hating this guy and calling him slurs or something, just because of how powerfully he gut punched the atmosphere for me at the moment. That's probably came out as something weird for you too, but literally, this game was squeezing my balls like so extremely hard up to this point, and then he appeared and everything just gone. It was like edging, but without the end of edging, so I was just strictly edged. And edging without the end is just a painful experience, borderline. It's just everything before it and everything after it is godly made. It's just a very nice horror. It actually builds the atmosphere, it actually keeps you in tension, it actually surprises you from time to time, you actually don't really know what to expect. And then this happens. I felt like a fucking idiot, that's what I probably want to say in the end of the day. That's what this whole segment made me feel like. And that's it. My words are out.
What? Developer of the game has certified kicking small people video on his channel? That's incredible!
Incredible, guys. Here's the video. That's funny, at least because during my span of making it, the game actually went to the release. Again. Second fucking time. It would be funnier if the developer is going to crash out too. Like, that would be an awesome thing. Okay. I'll talk more in the afterwards video that's going to be up tomorrow, I believe. I want to believe. How even this hiatus in few months happened, but now let's just talk about this video today. I don't know how well I put it, and I don't know why by the end it boiled to a bullshit rant, but here we are. I genuinely love when games try to do something fun or interesting or unique overall, and when we touching horror niche, it just honestly feels a lot of the times that developer that try to make a horror game are not really that interested in making the game specifically, you know, like the playable, interactive product. You know the definition you can came up with yourself, and that's not wrong at all, but just strange that that's how horror manifests itself in such a powerful medium as video games. You know, at first I wanted to list the exact type of projects I'm talking about just to define it more clearly, but then I just got that that's the form that genre had always, I guess. And from here on out, it was just interesting to understand why it is like that. If this video is going to start any kind of discussion, I would be down bad for it actually. From time to time appear projects that actually do scratch the surface and make something interesting and unique with the tools that Medium can give to this developer. But those projects don't really, I guess, change genre at all. Most of the times it's just considered as a fun gimmick for one time, and then afterwards everybody just moves out of it and genre stays the same. I guess though horror on itself is a very heavy gimmick reliant genre overall. With the way gimmicks working, it's actually probably the most important thing for the horror to do, like came up with new cool unique gimmick. And yeah, you know, when I'm thinking about that, if somebody just comes out with cool nice gimmick and other horror game just tries to incorporate it in any way, then that's just not that cool now, I guess, yes? So, most important and actually fun thing about gimmicks in horror games is that they surprise the player. That's important in horror games, to keep the player clueless about the true nature of how the game operates or anything like that. So if somebody just came with something cool, then it's just not that cool to steal it. And although I think that Freddy's existed and that just did not mess with the shit ton of copy-pasta games that actually were spawned after its release, I don't really know. I guess with the Five Nights at Freddy's main gimmick was not that it has gameplay, but the fact that animatronics were actually fuckable or something. Just highly marketable and stuff. Anyway, this is going to be a fucking rant if I really do continue like that. I better start and end it right here. Yeah, thank you for your attention. Please write something into the comments. I will be appearing on this channel more than I do now. I want to. There's actually a very clear possibility that I'm going to extinct on the next 6 months period, but that's can be not the case, and I'm hoping it's not the case. So, yeah, stay tuned, stay with me, and goodbye.